I shared on my garden tour the other day that I was going to plant some corn in this extra space in these 2 beds right here next to the pavilion. And I'm really excited about some of the varieties I've chosen. A couple of the ones that I would like to grow, I need to get the seeds for, but I did have this one, this Blue Jade sweet corn. This is from Hudson Valley Seed Company, and I got this from Ken, who's the owner of Hudson Valley, at Baker Creek's Seed Expo, and this was one that he personally suggested to me. It only grows 4 feet tall, so it's a really good option for raised beds. It was something that he told me, and I just planted the entire pack, so we'll see. Small to medium ears of shiny, sweet blue kernels. I also want to do a popping corn. I was thinking of possibly doing the japonica, I think that's how you say it. It's like a variegated multicolored leaves, and I was considering that one. And then I do have the seeds for a black corn called Cully that Baker Creek sells. And one time that I was visiting Baker Creek, I went in. They have a restaurant there. It's an amazing vegan restaurant, so good. And you just go in and they have like a, you know, like there's an option of what they're cooking that day. And they had this hot Cully corn tea, I guess is what they were calling it. And it was this beverage that was made out of this black corn. And it was really, really good. And that would be like what I would want to do with that black corn. Plus I think it would be really fascinating to see it grow. But I had this one area cleared out where I took all the cauliflowers out, so I've got it planted with the blue corn, and I've still got just a little bit of time before I need to sow the other ones. I can get them in the next 2 weeks, and I'll probably be good. So this is my current situation. Got the wind singing songs to me. So I've just pulled out, a lot of these are seeds that I already started, that I had started in the greenhouse, and so I'm kind of sorting through what I've already got growing. And then I just did like a quick look through of my seeds for some space fillers. I actually got some seeds in the mail from Urban Farmer. And I've got a few of these that I'm gonna throw in. Like I've got these Thumbelina mix zinnias, as well as Zinderella peach zinnias. Some more sunflowers, lots of beans. Basically, my goal is, over the course of the next few days, to fill in all the blank spaces in this garden, in the high tunnel, and in the in-ground garden in the back. And I'm gonna do it.
Real food comes dirty.
Yeah. Real food comes dirty. That doesn't look that dirty.
It's a little dirty. It's got a little bit of bee bread in there.
You brought a sweet treat?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got some honeycomb. Maya did hive inspections and the bees had started building weird
This
comb.
is the wild hive we have that's now turned into 3 wild hives. So it's splits.
Right.
But anyways, they have a tendency to just
do what they want.
Well, so they have a tendency to kind of just like, almost like, you know, as a dog, you know, is focusing on something, squirrel. Because like literally they'll be building comb the way you want them to, and then out of nowhere it'll just be like just everywhere, then it'll go back to normal. And I'm kind of like, I don't understand. So anytime like this particular frame they had built out, and I don't know how they got the spacing worked out, but somehow they had enough space where it was like coming off of the frame a good 1.5 inches, which when I added the extra frame into the 10 frame hive, it was gonna have to come off or it wasn't gonna fit. So I was like, well, it's all honey. There wasn't any brood on it, so I didn't like take any of their bees out, but we get a little special treat.
So whenever you get fresh honeycomb like this, which this has a little bit of bee bread in it, but it's mostly just honey, and you just put it in your mouth and chew it up, and then just spit the wax out.
Or save it and we melt it down and use it again.
Or save, yeah. When we pulled out, we had one where they did this, and we had to pull out a pretty substantial amount. And we took all the wax and after it was chewed up, and we saved it to melt down. Jackson, our oldest son, back before we had bees, when we used to go, like when we went and took our beekeeping class at our friends, we have some friends here locally that have a store called Brothers Honey, which that's where we get all our beekeeping stuff from. But they sell honey from all kinds of Arkansas beekeepers from all over the state. And there's one beekeeper that sells these little boxes that they actually put in their hives and let the bees fill it with comb. And so you get it and you get the honeycomb with the honey in it. And Jackson, it's like his favorite thing. Like, he'll save his own money, spend his own money. When he was younger, he would spend his own money, get his little box of honeycomb, and I would put it in like his Christmas stocking and stuff. And so now when Jeremiah brings in a bit of honeycomb, Jackson is like, I don't know. Do you ever, if you have teenagers, you understand those moments where they, like, you still see the little child in them? Jackson with honeycomb is that for me. So I am packing in all the empty spaces with seeds.
That's what Bintern said.
And this little, sad little 4-pack of peppers fell off over there and was laid on its side, and I missed it. And I just want to know, how do these look better after a week of laying on their side, not planted, than the ones I actually planted in the bag? That's not okay.
We got a lot to learn about peppers, apparently.
Aw, that little bee came and had a bit of honey. I tried to get the camera out quick enough because you could see her little tongue going into it, but she filled up quick. They're not very big. Maya's taking that plate and going and setting it down over there where the bees can clean it off. So I have a pack here of purple potted pole beans that I'm going to go put on my trellis, as well as some rattlesnake pole beans. And my friend Tammy sent me a package of, I can never say the name right. I'll look it up and put it down on the screen. It's another purple pole bean that is one I grew a couple years ago and loved, and last year I didn't grow it because I didn't have any seeds for it. And so she sent me a package. So I only have a handful of these purple potted ones that I can find. I'm going to send a few of these to a friend of mine, and then this year I'll save seeds for these so I have more. And I'm going to grow the rattlesnake, and then I'll probably grow one whole trellis of the trio, I don't know, you know. Look at that good boy. Yes, he is. So I just sowed several things in these beds, and I'm not telling you what they are yet. I just put a few things in there just to fill it up. Whew, sometimes when you go under these arches, you'll feel it tickle, and it's a spider web, and it's like, oh no. Since I'm growing 2 types of purple pole beans, what I'll do is start here on the end with the purple potted ones. I'll put seeds about every 4 inches or so. You can do about 4 to 6, and then put the rattlesnake ones in between so I can tell the difference between them. It doesn't really matter if you're just planting them to eat them, but since I do want to save seeds, I need to be able to differentiate so I can, you know, get them right, so that if I share them with other people, they know what to expect. From what I remember, the purple potted pole beans and the other ones are very, very similar. Oh, there's ants. Ants are a problem in raised garden beds. It does happen. And there are all kinds of things that are suggested to get rid of them. One of the most effective things that I have found is to take a scoop from one ant pile and put it on the other ant pile, and then take a scoop from that one and put it back on the original. And that really does get rid of them. A lot of what happens with ants in the garden, a lot of the natural remedies, cornmeal works, cinnamon works. I mean, a lot of these things works. Diatomaceous earth, they work sort of, but a lot of what you end up doing is just chasing the ants around your garden. I mean, they leave the spot that they're in, but then they go set up shop in another spot in your garden bed, so it doesn't really help you that much. Ants are one of the reasons why I don't claim an entirely organic garden, because Jeremiah specifically and Jackson are both very allergic. Jeremiah is so allergic to ants, I've never seen anything like it before. So I actually will use like traps. They're like baited trap type things that you set up, and I like them. They're like little stakes, and I put them down in the walkways so that I don't have poison washing into my beds, but they are down in the walkways, and the ants do come and eat it, and it kills them. I've found the one scoop thing where you take a scoop and move it over. That works pretty well. I actually haven't put any traps out this year, and I've mostly stayed on top of it, but we'll just have to see what happens when it gets warm. I do not put any sort of chemical fertilizers or pesticides on my plants or in my garden beds at all. That's just something that I do not do. I used to use things like 7 Dust years ago, but what I found was that it wasn't worth it to me to give up the rich ecosystem of an organic garden. I found when I use things like 7 Dust, I might get more squash, but I didn't have any butterflies. Obviously, you know, I mean, it kills bees. That stuff is non-discriminatory in what it takes out. And so I decided that I would rather go about it the organic way. The exception to that is using those ant stakes, which I do use in the ground instead of in the beds. And that's because if Jeremiah, like if he steps in an ant pile and gets bit by ant, he literally might not be able to put shoes on for a couple of days. Like his feet will swell so badly. It's one of those things that I just feel like it's worth making an exception, and since there's a way to handle it without having to put poison in my garden beds, I feel okay doing that. I do get asked about the organic question, and there's, you know, there are these tense moments, and if you're in any sort of like gardening groups on social media or anything like that, these conversations come up because you'll have people that are like, just use 7 Dust, just use these poisons, just do these things. And I'm actually not, I'm not a 100% purist when it comes to that for other people. Now, I have my own standard of what I'm willing to do, and I'm thankful to say that for the last few years, yeah, like this is like season 4, that nothing like that has been in my garden, and I'm glad to be able to do that. But there, for me, and this is just my personal opinion, I get to have one of those. You don't have to agree with it, but like I feel like when you have a home gardener that is learning and that is overwhelmed with pest pressure, and basically it comes down to putting something easy that's going to knock out the pests like 7 Dust on their garden versus giving up gardening and going and buying conventional produce at the grocery store, which is obviously lots of chemical fertilizers and pesticides are used in the production of that. To me, when it comes down to those two options, I feel like using the pesticides in your own garden is the obvious, you know, superior choice between those two options. You really have to look at the fact that like somebody might not have the option of saying, well, I'm having trouble, my crops failed, so I'm going to go support a local organic farmer in purchasing food. A lot of people can't do that. They have to go to the grocery store and buy the conventional produce because that's what they can afford. And I feel like if it comes down to that is what you feel like is the only option, that's a better option. But I do think that organic gardening should be the goal. I feel like that is the best way of doing it. I will do a more detailed video about what we do for pest control on our different crops. I will do like a video about what the options are. I'll get that out here very soon because I'm getting that question a lot. BT, B, letter B, T is the abbreviation, I had to look it up, for Bacillus thuringiensis. I don't know. Probably butchering that. That's why I always call it BT. I've been getting a lot of questions about that. That is used for caterpillars. Neem oil is a concentrate that you can get, and all these things are much cheaper to purchase. If you get the concentrates, get a good cheap sprayer bottle. I'll put some links down below. I'm pretty sure all my stuff this year came from Haas Tools. I double checked everything and like topped up at the beginning of the season to make sure I would have everything. And you will see, like if you go to your local store and you go look for this stuff, you can buy one spray bottle that's not a concentrate. It's usually in the range of like $7 to $10, or you can spend like 15 to 20 bucks and make literally like 20-gallon spray bottles if you buy a concentrate, and it lasts year after year, so you don't have to use it all in one year. So that's definitely the way to go. BT for caterpillars. Neem oil is one that's a good organic pest control. That's something that you get as a concentrate. And then diatomaceous earth is something that you dust on your plants. All of these things they're not like a do it and forget it thing. If it rains, you're gonna have to reapply stuff. Like I said, I'll go into more depth whenever I can like present it better, because I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head right now. I'd like to give you some notes and tell you exactly what things do. There are other options too, like you can do things like ferment peppers and spray that on different things. You can use things like beer for slugs, doing beer traps. There are really cool and creative ways to do organic pest control. But for the sake of like full transparency, this gardening year up until right now, I have put diatomaceous earth on once. I sprayed a product that was recommended to me by Brad Gates at Wild Boar Farms called Pure Crop, which is kind of like a preventative. It's like this organic product that you put on tomato plants on the front end to help build, and I haven't talked about it at all because it is kind of expensive. He gave me a few samples of it and I ended up ordering a bottle. And I don't have an opinion yet, so that's not an endorsement from me, but if it's endorsed by Brad, I was like, man, I really trust that. It was enough for me to buy it. I've done that, and I haven't sprayed BT at all. I mean, that's why my cabbages are ate up, so I haven't done a lot, and I usually don't. I actually am really, really laid back when it comes to putting stuff on my garden, but I also lose crops. Like last year I got hardly any eggplants because the flea beetles were so intense and it was so rainy that I didn't keep putting stuff on them every single day to fight those. I just was like, whatever. Last year for the aphids, I got a bunch of ladybugs, and they really knocked out some really heavy aphid infestations, but I didn't do a lot like super proactively. I'm kind of lazy when it comes to that stuff. I guess that's condemning. I don't know that I'm exactly lazy. Well, I just have my limitations, and I know how much I'm willing to give to something, and there are some crops that I actually just care about a lot more. I'm not gonna make a daily task of spraying and picking on some things. Like, I'll just have some holy cabbages, whereas like I've been spraying and maintaining my tomatoes a lot more because I stand to gain a much larger volume of food from those plants than from those few heads of cabbage, if that makes sense. Whoever suggested sunflowers here next to the holy basil in this bed, I said I wanted something tall, you won. I'm doing these Canyon Sunset F1 sunflowers from the Urban Farmer. They're really, really pretty. They're a cutting sunflower, and they're supposed to get relatively tall. I'm gonna plant them fairly close together so they won't get as tall as they would if I gave them more space. But they're a cutting sunflower, really, really pretty, and they're a bigger head cutting sunflower than the one that I got in the back. Now, cutting sunflowers like these, they're F1 hybrids. They are actually pollenless, so this is not something you save the seeds of. This is not something that is a beneficial plant to your bees, because obviously it's no pollen. So if you're trying to plant a pollinator garden, you're trying to attract pollinators, this would not be the choice that you would use. These are like I did the Pro Cuts in the back. That's not what they're for. Now they're for cutting and bringing in your house. That's why they don't have pollen. So if you have like an asthmatic kid like I do, you don't want to bring pollen-y flowers on your table. So that's the point of these, and I'm gonna fill this space up with them. And because I do care about the bees, I also planted lots of nice heirloom sunflowers for them. So we're sharing the garden space this year, me and the bees. I'm resowing my Kajari melons again, because those hens got in here the other day and I'd resowed them and they came up. I have one little plant over there, and these other ones have seriously been resown. This will be the second time. Both times because of my chickens coming and scratching them up and eating the tender seedlings. I sowed like several this time because I need to get them growing.
You forgot to check on the pickles.
You forgot to check on the pickle cucumbers?
Yeah.
Okay. Good job remembering. You got one to pick?
You got some big babies.
Yes.
This one's gonna be a big size, right?
You got some big babies. Did you find one?
Yeah. Look at the bottom.
Is it ready to pick or does it need more time?
It's ready to pick. It's big enough for me.
Big enough for you?
Come in the sec so I can eat some.
So you can eat it? Okay.
Salt.
Ooh, looks good. What did you just say?
Can you cut this for me and chop, 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 and salt, salt, salt?
Chop, 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 and salt, salt, salt. Yeah, we can go in and cut it for you. So right here I just planted some purple whole peas, which I'll do some little TPs here. Yeah, you can go wash it. I just moved the mulch out of the way and I'll put it back after they grow up. Bear, you want to play with those goaties? I feel pretty good about what I got planted tonight. I planted a lot, some of which I didn't record. Some of these things I want them to come up, and I transplanted some things, and I want them to kind of fill out and let me get a good idea. Sometimes I'll do things and not know 100% sure whether it's gonna work or not, and I usually wait to see the outcome a little bit before I share it. I mean, I'll tell you if it failed, but I don't want anybody following my example and it turning out to be bad advice, so we'll see how things work out. But
Bear was scared that you were gone, so I just warned you.
What?
Bear was scared that you were gone.
Bear was scared that I was gone. Oh no, I think that bee buzzed at him. He's learned his lessons about bees. All right, let's go inside and do our live. It's actually the next morning and I edited this video and realized that I didn't close it out. I'm in my dining room, which here's our kind of temporary pantry area. We're boxing up our kitchen and getting ready to completely tear it out, which is crazy, but I'll show you more about that on the next vlog. For now, I just wanted to say thank you for hanging out with me while I plant my garden, and I bless you. Until next time.